You know what spills my mumbo is when we talk about how the police do black people, like, police killing unarmed black people and the things that goes on in the black community at the hands of police and police brutality and systemic racism and white supremacy. And then some goofy ass nigga comes along talking about, well, how can you scream Black Lives Matter when they don't even matter to black people? Sometimes it be a black person saying it. You know what that bullshit sounds like? What that bullshit is? It's the 2020 version of saying, but what about black on black crime? Understand something. Majority of all crimes that take place are interracial. It only makes sense. You're more likely to have a crime committed against you by someone who lives in close proximity to you, right? Okay, so that's the reason why there is so much black on black crime. But it's not just in the black community. Okay, you don't hear them talking about white on white crime, or Mexican on Mexican crime, or raccoon on raccoon crime. But for some reason in the black community, it's such an issue. It sounds like it's not a racial issue. It sounds like it's a human issue. So why is something that we do that's just as human as anybody else being used to call us animals and savages? Isn't that always the narrative? Isn't that always how they try to paint us? And that's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. Because when black people commit crimes against each other, they go to jail. They get prison sentences, oftentimes harsher than their white counterparts would in the same predicament. But when the police who's supposed to serve and protect the community, okay, kill an unarmed black person, they don't get locked up. Yeah, it happens here and there, and it's starting to happen a little bit more, but look at how long that shit took. We still sitting saying, arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor. And for what? And then if you want to say, okay, well, the black on black crime is higher than anything, ask yourself why. Why is that? You think 400 years of oppression has anything to do with that? You think redlining and gentrification and unequal housing opportunities and unequal employment and unequal education has anything to do with that? I mean, you kidnap a group of people, you force them into slave labor, you don't return them home, you free them from slavery, but you still treat them like shit and look for any excuse that you can to lock their ass up, essentially putting them back into what's now called legal slavery. And you don't think that that group of people, as resilient as we are, we still have PTSD from that shit. It's hereditary. But y'all take that and try to paint us in a negative light. And when other black people repeat the shit, that makes it even worse. Because that psychological psychological seed has been planted into our minds to think of ourselves as animals and savages. Understand something. I am 100,000% with black people being held accountable for their actions. Racism aside, like, I'm on man time. You do some fucked up shit, you got to be held accountable for it. If you're not eating or you're not where you need to be at in life, you need to get on your shit and get on your purpose and go get that motherfucking bag. But we're not about to sit here and pretend like the goalpost isn't moved back for us. We're not about to sit here and pretend that systemic racism doesn't exist when they have documentation of them specifically targeting black people to keep us down. So when you talk about black on black crime and all that other bullshit, that shit shouldn't fucking matter. What the fuck does that matter? Why do we have to fix the problems in our community first in order to demand justice from the system that oppresses us? That's like a parent, right? And not even an actual parent. That's like somebody kidnapping a bunch of kids. Let's say somebody kidnaps 5 kids, takes these kids to their house, raises them, but abuses the shit out of them. Makes them work all day off some Cinderella shit. And these kids end up, in turn, they work hard and they do what they can, but they fucked up. They fight all the time, they cuss, they don't know how to act in public, they don't know how to talk to people. And somebody comes along and says, hey man, you need to stop abusing them kids. You're beating the shit out of them. And that parent that kidnapped those kids says, well, yeah, but look at them. They're savages. They're animals. They don't know how to fucking act. I guess they wouldn't know how to fucking act when you go upside their head all the fucking time. And for those of y'all that don't understand that analogy I just broke down, the kids is black people, the parent is systemic racism and white supremacy, and the household is America. Notice I said they kidnapped the kids, took them from a whole nother household, treated them like shit, and told them, if you don't like it, go back to where the fuck you came from. As if we stumbled over here for some reason. Come on now. Get it together. My new album, Higher Self, will be out soon. We'll talk about this more on that.